Hey y'all, happy Tuesday. I'm going live on Instagram, so let me see if this works. There we go. I think I'm live on Instagram too. Hey y'all, good to see y'all. Whoever is joining live. I see Danny already posted a comment. Thank you. Looking forward to hearing your powerful journey. Thank you so much for this. But yes, today I will be sharing how I went from a social worker to a freelancer, sharing my story. If y'all have seen my YouTube channel, I've kind of chronicled my journey from learning that I was in a toxic job, understanding like the path forward, which was not clear at all, right? A lot of this was just me like taking baby step after baby step, seeing what worked, trying new things constantly, kind of leaving flexibility open, which is really important on any journey that you're embarking on, right? To really be flexible, to see different opportunities, things that come up, things that you're interested in. Hey, good to see you here. Good to see you here. Thank you for being here. Yes, if you're live with me, please, say it in the chat so we can say hello to you on this. What day is it? Monday. Monday. Yes. But yeah, so I'll be sharing my journey about how I went from being a social worker, and it's kind of like a misnomer because I'm still a social worker. I still have my master's degree in social work. And a lot of the things that I do really integrate what I learned as a social worker during that program, especially doing things like workshops. And I have a workshop, not a workshop, a webinar coming up, Work Anywhere, Live Everywhere. Freelancing 101 for Black women this Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern. And here is the link to register if you're not already registered. We would love to see you there. I will be co-hosting it with Quinn Edwards, who is a fellow Black woman social worker who is a former teacher. And so we will be sharing the basics of freelancing if you are interested. So yes, I put the link in the chat as well. It's also in the description section if you'd like to register, again, for this free webinar we have coming up this Thursday. But yes, so how I started off as a social worker. So before I got a master's degree in social work, I graduated in May 2020, which was during the pandemonium, which is a whole other topic I have written down. That can be another video in and of itself. Trying to complete a master's program while in the throes of a national pandemonium, as we saw, international, global, right? All of us trying to figure out what was going on. And part of my story, like contracting the virus and then ending up developing long COVID, which I'll talk more about hopefully in 2025. That's my plan, to share more of my story around that. But trying to, again, finish this really intense master's program in social work at a top social work university, running myself into the ground a lot of the times. And I talked about this with Dr. Maya on Friday during our live stream around the trauma of academia. That master's program was a lot. It was a lot. And I shared this during the live too. Like it gave me the opportunity to pursue career paths, interests that I didn't even know of. So I'll always be thankful for that. Being able to connect with Indigenous communities in the US, which was a huge part of my growth experience of learning about things like colonization, colonialism, how that impacts our mental health. Because the master's program I attended had a particular concentration in Indigenous social work, Native and Indigenous social work. So that was a huge benefit of that. But in the meantime of, again, trying to complete all the requirements, I think I had to do at least 800 practicum hours. And practicum is just applying the skills that you learned in class as a social work into the field, like field study. And you have someone supervising you at a master's level to make sure you're completing the requirements effectively. And then you have to submit it to the university for it to be approved in order to get your master's degree. So it's a whole process, right? So when we transitioned to online learning, trying to do this, I was in the midst of planning a presentation for an organization called Black Girls Do STEM in St. Louis, which is where I'm from. And it was going to be lovely. I was so excited about it. And then, of course, everything shut down. So the project I was working on shut down. All my classes went virtual. Again, trying to do essays, trying to do group projects during the pandemonium, right? The pandemic, the global pandemic. It was a lot. And that was a huge source of my burnout as well. And so I entered right into that master's program into a full-time job, which is one of my practicum sites. And this is a job that ended up turning toxic, right? It didn't start out toxic. And this is something Dr. Kamani shares on her channel as well. Lifting as We Climb Consulting is her channel. The job didn't start off toxic. And this is the case for a lot of us. It takes a period of time, right? Something I experienced from pet to threat, coined by 3 Black women professors. This is something I experienced that I didn't even know was happening. But again, being brought in for my background, my expertise, which I'll share a little bit about. I have my resume pulled up, y'all, so this is serious. But yes, and then like people being intimidated by that. You sharing ideas, you creating new things in these spaces, and then that puts a target on your back, especially as a Black woman. And I had no idea that there was a term for this before I stumbled across Dr. Kamani's channel. Thank you to the YouTube algorithm for bringing me to her channel and her sharing her story and research and different things about how this is a global issue that Black women experience, and something I had an idea, like a video about. Does this happen to anyone else? Because I'm curious. Does this happen to anyone else, right? We get all the degrees, all the certifications, everything that they say that we need. We enter into these workplaces and that puts a target on our back. And all of a sudden, we're being pushed out for achieving. And I really have a question, does this happen to anyone else? Because I haven't heard it if so. So yeah, I'll get more into my story in a second. Hey, Kiki, good to see you here. Thank you for joining. Hey, Diamond, good afternoon. Good to see you, as always. Yes. Yeah. So yes, in undergrad, I didn't major in social work. I kind of have a non-traditional path to social work, the social work field. I majored in finance and Black studies as an undergrad. So my degree is in business. My undergraduate degree is in business. I was the only Black finance major. Woo, that was difficult. That was really difficult. Being the only one, and not only being the only Black person, right? But finance is a very male-dominated field. And so that was a whole other issue, which is why I talk about intersectionality all the time. My experiences, like, they have to be within an intersectional lens for me to understand the full impact of what I experienced at the university level and also in the workplace, right? Being in the banking field, which I'll get into. Hey, Leslie. Oh, good morning. Good to see you here. Yes, good to see you here. Yeah. So like I said, being in the banking field, and I know that's kind of unusual for people to hear a social worker being in the banking field, but that was the field I was in before I even entered into social work. So I came out of undergrad, went into the banking field. I had a period where I thought I was going to be a teacher, doing this program, which I came across some things that I did not agree with, did not align with what I wanted to do, with the impact I wanted to have in the program I was looking at. So I ended up actually pursuing full-time employment. I did kind of like a teaching assistantship at Washington University. And that was really cool to work with middle school students, gifted middle school students, which I was as well. And so to be able to like be full circle back in that experience, to be a teaching assistant, and a lot of the different things that kids experience at that age in middle school was traumatic. Good morning. Good to see you here. Good to see you here. Thank you for joining. Yes. And yes, let me know, y'all. Middle school. That time was a lot. So to be able to be a source of support for students who excelled academically, but that comes with a lot of different issues in school, right? Being bullied, being ostracized, like all these things that kids experience at that age, especially when you're in gifted programs. So from there, yes, I started full-time at a bank. So I was in the banking field, again, having majored in finance and Black studies. So Black studies was always my area of passion, interest. And I shared about this on my Substack blog. Some things happened along the way. Yeah, hey, Marissa, good to see you here. Right. I teach middle school now. I had no idea you did too. Yes, I did. And part of my healing journey is telling myself my own story, because as a constant overachiever, I have just been doing all these things and not even realizing I was doing them, right? So I really had to sit, tell myself what I have done. Again, remind myself of my skill set. A lot of us are just in survival mode. So we're one after the other, accomplishment, achievement, without really taking the time to sit with what have you done already, right? What impact have you made already? So that's really the journey I've been on, and really telling myself, I've done a lot. I have a lot of different skill sets. I've had a lot of different jobs. I am 30, right? And within this time span, I've done a lot. And so to be able to just sit with that for yourself, that may be an exercise. Can you walk yourself through your own story throughout your life? To remind yourself of the different things that you've done, the lives that you've touched, right? And if you've been in survival mode this whole time, that may be difficult, right, to even realize. But it's important to take the time to sit with yourself and celebrate yourself for what you've already accomplished. Hey, Danny. Yes. Girl, you were in pink today too. I love that. I love that. Matching. Yes. Thank you. Thank you for being here, as always. Oh, Leslie. Okay. Hold on. Now I wasn't going to cry. I wasn't going to cry. Thank you for this. Thank you. I appreciate that. I really do. Thank you. Yeah. I hated primary school because I was bullied. Yeah. Even though I was trying to do all the things, so hard to do all the things. Yeah. Woo. Yeah. And then bullying at these really formative ages where our brains are in the crucial development stages, right? So we internalize the thing that something's wrong with us. So we take this into adulthood, right? Taking off pieces of ourselves, contorting ourselves, putting ourselves into boxes that we didn't create, that we didn't consent to be in. But we've received these messages along the way that something's wrong with us, right? From people literally telling us this. We're not making this up. Someone literally told me these things, right? Being bullied, being ostracized, all these things that come along with the oppressive systems that we live in, right? And how they impact us on an individual level, and the messages that we receive about how to treat each other. And we really see that with kids a lot. Yeah. Hey, Maya Spikes Rides. Always good to see you here. Good afternoon. Yay. Thank you, Danny. Yes. Yeah. So again, I entered the banking field, was not prepared at all, which is one of the things I'm interested in sharing with, especially Black students going into STEM fields, although banking is not really a STEM field, but there's very few of us in these fields. And so the things that you will encounter along the way, no one prepared me for these things. I had to learn along the way, right? That just because you have the achievements, the grades, the academics, that doesn't mean that people want you there, right? And you have to have this belief within yourself, in this solid, unshakable, unchanging perception of who you are. Because if it's open to external input, right? People telling you who you are, people trying to put you on a path that doesn't feel right to you, that is when we're harmed. That's when we're harmed. Yeah. So the male-dominated banking field was a lot. And so through that process, writing was really my outlet. So My notes app was the way that I processed what was happening in these environments, right? So let me know if you are in a similar environment. And what types of coping mechanisms are you employing to really stay connected to your true self, to who you are authentically? Because these environments can really challenge that. And it's intentional. It is intentional. Yes, so writing, attending different events, doing different employee activities. Oop, I think my notes froze here, y'all. But yes, I see Leslyn. Oh, wow, I do wealth management and financial advisory now. I didn't know that. Wow, and man, it is so annoying dealing with the dudes, listen, who think because they know everything. Yes. Hmm. Thank you for sharing this. Yes. Yeah, and that's why intersectionality is so important, right? Because our experiences, like the identities that we have, that informs the experience that we have in a lot of these places that have been traditionally off limits to us. This is only recently that we've had access to these spaces. And so what has the impact been? Right? Has it been a positive one? Have we been able to achieve and accomplish what we have been promised? And if so, what has been the cost, and has the cost been worth it? Even though the best financial advisors I know are women. Thank you, Leslie. Thank you. Yes. Yeah. So at one point, I thought I was going to be a financial planner, taking the CFP, Certified Financial Planner exam. That might come along my path again one day, but yeah, just trying to figure out what I wanted to do. Being someone who loved math my entire life, yeah, I thought that this could be the path for me, right? And just learning along the way the different things that I encountered. And also always having a passion to be more creative, which I had been pushing down, to be practical, to survive, to have the career that made money, right? Being the first generation within my immediate family to not have experienced poverty myself, but have heard the trauma, the deep, deep trauma of living in poverty. I had taken that on, right? That I'm not going to experience this. And so in my mind, that meant me pursuing a path that I knew would provide financially, not realizing what I would encounter along the way. Again, the people that did not want me in these environments as a Black woman, no matter how many academic credentials I had, right? That's important to say. That's important to say. It's not like the shiny thing that's presented to us. Just get this degree in this field and you'll be fine. That's not true. That's not true. Lavendula, good to see you here. Yes. A similar experience in the banking field, in the banking world. Yeah, 10 out of 10 would never recommend. Thank you for this. Yeah. And I wish someone had told me this, right? Because I was entering into this like bright eye. I'm like, I love math. Let me pursue finance. Again, always having this more creative side of myself, but feeling like if I had to do numbers all day, I could. I love math that much, y'all. Let me know if y'all love math. But yeah, and just being in these environments where it was not about what you were doing. It wasn't about the accomplishments, which we're told a lot, and having to figure that out on myself. That was traumatizing along the way. The different interactions I had, slowly putting the pieces of the puzzle together of what I was in, because no one really told me the truth of what I was entering. It was this shiny thing of just do this, get this degree, get the honors, which I graduated with honors from my finance program at a top finance university, right? So I had everything that people told me that I needed to excel. And on paper I did, right? But I was deteriorating from the inside based on the experiences that I had. A lot of different things along the way, as Lavendula knows, right? Again, thank you for this. This is important. The things that you encounter along the way in STEM fields, in banking, in finance as a Black woman, I wish someone had told me what to be prepared for. Yeah. Annika, good to see you here. Yes, good day. Good day. Yes. Leslie says, now I get the benefit of their idiocy because I get to learn from you, their loss. Oh, I just got what that meant. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, I really appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you. Kiki says, this is why I prefer to do freelancing. My ideas were either demeaned, yes, belittled, or taken without credit. Come on. Yes. Yes. This resonates. This resonates. Yeah. And so, like I said, like having a more creative side to myself, which I'm now able to explore again as a freelancer, which I do have a webinar coming up, scrolling on the screen if you want to register here. Work anywhere, live everywhere, freelancing 101 for Black women. If you're interested, if this is the case for you too, you've given your ideas, they haven't been appreciated, like Kiki said. They've been demeaned, they've been belittled, and then they've been taken without credit. This is what happened to me in the job that I was in. In the toxic job that I was in, having introduced an idea for an article to go, not even an article, like a press release. My ideas being belittled. And then the next year rolls around, I see exactly what I said in that press release. Where is my name? Nowhere to be found. So it's kind of like a mental game that's being played in a lot of these workplaces, right? They'll tell you that your ideas are worthless in so many words, even if they don't say it directly. And then they'll steal it and use it for their own benefit, right? Try to use your image to bolster whatever they're doing, try to hide what they're doing. And so this is real. This is just what we experience in the workplace as Black women. And again, I have the question, does this happen to anybody else? The way that it does, going from pet to threat. Again, coined by 3 Black women professors, this term. Because this happens over and over and over again to us in the workplace. Oh, I'm so excited. Yes. So looking forward to Thursday's freelancing workshop. I'm chopping at the bits. Oh, yes. Yes, I'm excited too. A little nervous, but yes, I'm excited too. Lavendula says, yep, never about skill, all about how well, yes, they like you and how well you fit into the mold. That. Yep. Who do you know? Right? Are you a team player? That can be a whole video in and of itself. Right? How well do you fit into the boxes that people have created for you? Again, that you didn't consent to. That really determines your, like, the level that you'll be able to go to in these workplaces. And so that's not being told to us. A lot of us have to figure this out for ourselves, right? And along the way, there's trauma after trauma after trauma till we get to this realization, oh, they never wanted me there. Well, y'all could have told me that before I even stepped foot into this place. Yep. Yeah, thank you. Yes, good to see you. You can never work enough or be available enough. Yep. And that goes back to like the mindset of colonization, right? There is no stopping point with colonization. And that's why all these things are interconnected. There is no stopping point. There is no rest period. There is no enough. There is no being satisfied, because you're always wanting to colonize, to go further, more, 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 more. That's exhausting. That's exhausting. Yeah. But yes, y'all. Getting back to my list. Again, having been in the, and so my transition into the social work field was really discovering the field of community development. And now at this age, having, right, that there's something wrong, because it often comes from a deficit-based language. If you're in the social work field, this is a term that's used often. Is it deficit-based or is it asset-based? Because in the field of community development, it's often deficit-based, right? What's wrong with these communities? Even othering people, as if we're not all on the same planet, but that's another topic. What's wrong? How can I come in? The savior complex so often. Tell people what's wrong with their communities, right? Communities that have had their resources deliberately extracted, their labor exploited. And so the consequences are what we see. It's not that it comes out of nowhere. These are deliberate actions taking place behind the scenes that we often can't see. And so then we place the blame on ourselves or on other people around us, when the systems the whole time are in the background creating these conditions that we see. So that's something I had to learn along the way. But yeah, after discovering that field, community development, I went to graduate school for social work. I concentrated in economic development as a social worker. So I was a non-traditional social worker. I know that people sometimes hear the term social worker and just think therapist. So I was not on the clinical route. I was never on the clinical route. And there's kind of 3 levels within social work. Macro level, which is more policy decisions. Meso, which is kind of the in-between. Policy, connecting that with communities. And then micro, which is when you work directly with individuals, one-on-one. This is therapy. So I was in the meso level, connecting these larger policies, community development, economic development policies, with how they were impacting people on the ground day to day. Doing research studies on Black women entrepreneurs, which was my field of study at one of my practicum sites. So doing policy research, policy briefs on the different impacts of entrepreneurship policies in the US and how they were impacting Black women, specifically the largest group of entrepreneurs in the US. And then opportunities for intervention as well. Which is why I talk so much about like Black women in entrepreneurship. This is the route that a lot of us want to take first, but also have to take in order to be able to meet the full expression of ourselves, of our talents, of our gifts, because these environments, these work environments that we're in, they often seek to suppress these within us. They see this as a threat, as a challenge to the social order. When we come out with these gifts that we inherently have, when we excel, when we give suggestions, as we're often being asked to do, which is really confusing along the way, right? Tell me what's not working well, give me your suggestions. No. Because when we do often, it's met with hostility. Now you're being pushed off of projects. Now you're being excluded from meetings. And so entrepreneurship is really the way that a lot of us have to take to reclaim those parts of ourselves, right? That people viewed as threats in these work environments. Because if we think about, again, this is why this is all connected. the foundations of the very country, of the US, of the West in general. Seeing Black women as not human, right? Our labor is just there to be exploited for other people's use. And so when we step into our full power, when we begin to individuate, when we begin to step into self-determination and self-sovereignty, that upsets people. That challenges how we're told, right, the role that we're supposed to play within these systems. It's like, what do you want me to do? Right? We're just naturally gifted. We naturally excel at a lot of these things. We're skilled. We work incredibly hard, right? And again, you don't have to have a degree to fall into this. Please don't ever think that. We come here with these gifts. And it's just being in these workplaces, being in these educational institutions where these are really viewed as threats. It puts targets on us. And so somehow kind of full circle coming back into my entrepreneurship journey. Having studied these issues, knowing the capital constraints that Black women entrepreneurs face, that's why I was hesitant to even become an entrepreneur, which I shared on Dr. Kamani's channel earlier this week. Having understood, right, the very real things that make entrepreneurship so difficult to sustain for Black women. I'm like, do I really want to embark on this? Knowing what you know. And the toxic job experience really gave me the push, because I don't know if I would have ever pursued entrepreneurship had it not been for that experience. Again, of using my creativity, using everything that I had, being on major grant writing teams, securing huge amounts. When I say huge, I mean huge amounts of funding, working on strategies, right, to move capital to Black-owned businesses in the US. These are the things that I was working on. Being highly skilled. Again, a lot of us don't even realize the skills that we have because they have been downplayed in these environments. And so it's really tapping into that self-validation for yourself, combing through all the things that you've done, you've been a part of, the lives that you've impacted. This is your skill set. This is what you can use, again, to pivot into something like freelancing, if this is an option for you, if you want to learn more about this option, right? Because being in a traditional workplace, again, where our gifts are stifled, that also causes emotional, spiritual, mental harm. So freelancing could be an option. Yes. Oh, thank you for this. Yes. Thank you. Yeah, Kiki, yes. A pet is an animal, and being a token, yes, is being an object for them to use and toss to the side when you no longer have use. This is powerful. Thank you. Yes. Being tokenized. Being tokenized in these workplaces, right? Yeah. Again, having been in, I don't think I shared this, but being in an internship program as an undergraduate student for Black students at a bank. Being tokenized. That doesn't feel good. And believe me, you can feel it when you're being tokenized because you're not being perceived or treated as a full human being. Right? Again, as Kiki shared, you're just there for their use. And when you no longer serve that use, when you begin, again, stepping into your agency as a human being, stepping into your power, pushing back, or even like just saying something that's to the contrary of what other people are saying, now you're a threat. Now you no longer have use and you will be pushed out of the system. Shout out to Melanie Gowdy, MSW, who was on Dr. Kamani's channel, her interview changed my life. Her saying that, I know that I will get to a point in any organization, right, where people will perceive me as a threat. It's only a matter of time because of who I am. And so when that happens, it's important to not internalize what's happening to you. Realize that the system will push you out because you represent a threat to that system, right? It's something about you, your essence, the skill set that you bring in, right? They feel like they can no longer use you in the ways that they want to. So then you'll be pushed out. But that has nothing to do with you. And I think that's the important thing to remember. Something I wish I had known. Because the level of internalizing the treatment that I experienced, right? Picking myself apart from the inside. What is wrong with me? Why am I not able to fit into this environment that I was told if I had all the credentials, all the achievements, this would be the path of success. Y'all have Play-Doh in my hand. Stress reliever. But this would be the path of success. Not mentioning all the hostility, all the being pushed to the sides when your ideas don't align with other people's ideas. When they're telling you how you should talk about your own community. And people in the social work field, you know what I'm talking about. Right? Some people think that they have authority to speak on behalf of communities, the communities that you're in, that are you. But they have a deeper level of understanding? No. No. So yes. Yeah, so I did practicum. And again, practicum is just applying the skills that you learned in the classroom as a social worker to a field setting. So I did about, how many hours was that? I think that was 860 hours of practicum over the course of a 2-year master's degree in social work. So that just gives you an idea. If you're interested in pursuing a master's degree in social work, like I said, it does provide you with career opportunities if you are looking to become a licensed therapist, even work in policy realms at the macro level of social work. But I did practicum at they come back. I did practicum at an affordable housing nonprofit, again at a major bank in the research department, doing policy research on Black women entrepreneurs and different opportunities for policy intervention to support the capital constraints that Black women so often face as entrepreneurs, even as entrepreneurship remains like really the path that a lot of us have to take as we're being pushed out, sidelined. Our gifts are too bright for these people, for these institutions, right? It represents a challenge to the institution. So a lot of us have to pursue entrepreneurship to regain our mental health. I mean, it's really that simple. To regain our mental health, yeah. But at the same time, like the very real access to capital, access to resources, mentorship, all these things that are so important in entrepreneurship, which is why just the ecosystem of YouTube has been so inspiring to me. Seeing us be able to share resources, knowledge, education with each other as we're all on this journey, understanding what online business, freelancing, these options that have really never been presented to us in the past, to be able to share that freely with each other. That's huge. Because lack of knowledge, information about how entrepreneurship works, that can be a huge barrier to making your business sustainable if this is something that you want to pursue. I do have a free community. Speaking of that, if you'd like to join, Black Women Freelancers. And this is a relaunch. So I'll get into, but I launched my virtual assistant business, Free Black Woman Virtual Solutions, on International Women's Day last year, 2023. And I started a community. This was around the time I recorded my webinar. So if you'll see in the description section, and I'll link it here too, I recorded a free webinar, Start Your Online Business from Scratch. And with that, I created a community that was paid, and I just made it free because I think this is really important, especially as we're seeing what's going on in the country, in the world, as we see Black women continue to be targeted. That's the word, targeted, in these workplaces over and over again. How can we take our skill set, because we know that we have so many skills, and again, please do a skills inventory. Walk yourself through all the skills that you have that are opportunities for you to pursue something like freelancing, if this is something that's of interest to you. Right? But how can we take those skills and literally create income streams? As Stephanie Perry has shared, income streams off of the larger river, something that I'm learning as I'm building my strategy for my business now. Having been traumatized from that job, I'm just now at the point where my brain has healed enough for me to be able to put the pieces of the puzzle together. Things that I have been creating this whole time that now I'm like, how does this fit into the larger strategy? Something that I have done in my career, right? Building a strategy for funding businesses. But the issue is, we're in these environments, we have all the skills, we have all the knowledge, but the trauma of what we're facing day after day, the dissociation that happens, we're often disconnected from what we're actually doing. So all of these things are connected. Oh, thank you for this. Yes, so true. We are a challenge, yes, to the institution. Entrepreneurship is a path. Yeah. And I'll be the first to say entrepreneurship is not without its ups and downs, without its challenges. Again, something I researched, which is like, really, universe? But yeah, something I researched, the challenges that arise along the way, which is why it's important to have people to support you, people to tell you that it's not just you. I'm experiencing this too. I don't know what I'm doing, right? To alleviate some of that feeling that you're doing it wrong. There is no doing it wrong. Every step that you take is more information that you gain along the journey, just like life. I have found that entrepreneurship kind of mirrors life in that sense. You don't know what you're doing every day, right? You don't know the bigger picture. It's just along the way you gather those little pieces, and then you start to put them together, and then it's like, oh, this is what I'm doing. Right? So entrepreneurship can be a path towards that. Yeah. Get back to my notes. Yes. That's a link to join my free community. I also launched a new YouTube channel, Black Women Freelancers. So please subscribe to that. Yeah. And this is for Black women. Other practicum things that I did, if you're interested in the field of social work, I did a quantitative analysis on changes in community outcomes before and after community investments were made to see if there were things like gentrification that occurred, right? So the before and after census data, that's really the data set that I was in. Using statistical tools, right? Again, having been a data analyst in the banking field before I transitioned into social work, this was kind of my thing. This was my thing. So taking that knowledge, again, knowledge and skill sets that I had already gained into a new field. And I had to remind myself, I've already done this, right? So this journey into entrepreneurship, it might feel new, and it is, but have you done something similar in the past that you can now apply the lessons that you learned during that experience to this new journey that you're embarking on? I think that that's important too. Yeah, so I ended up getting a job offer at the third place that I did my practicum hours at. So this job, again, did not start off toxic at all. I loved it. I loved it, which is also confusing. If you have experienced a toxic job experience, that when you first came in, it was what you wanted to do. People were like showing you the way, supporting you. And then there's that turning point where things start to feel off. Things start to feel off and you can feel it in your spirit. You see people that were once celebrating you, applauding you, shouting you out. Now all of a sudden they're starting to view you in a different way. Again, when you shine too brightly, if that's a thing. If you shine too brightly, if you put forward a suggestion where your feedback is being asked for, which is again confusing. You put forward a suggestion and now all of a sudden they didn't appreciate that suggestion because maybe they didn't have that. So there's a lot of these like jealousy. Even I had to go back to the dynamics of a plantation system under the system of enslavement. And again, having a background in Black studies, I'm so thankful for that. Because when this experience happened, I was able to go back to, again, what happened? What have I already gained? The knowledge I already have to understand what's happening here. It's a recreation of a lot of these dynamics. When people shone, I think that's the right tense, shone too brightly. When their skill sets challenged the established hierarchy in these plantation systems, what was the treatment? A lot of times physical harm. And even in these workplaces, we see Black women especially being physically harmed sometimes. And so these things didn't go anywhere. I think that's important to recognize. They didn't go anywhere. Hopefully I'm back. Yes. But these workplaces, again, have similar dynamics. They do. And that may be helpful to start to understand, start to externalize what you experienced. That you're gifted, that you're highly intelligent, that you see things that other people can't, that you're highly perceptive, right? That you ask questions. All of these things are gifts. Within oppressive institutions, environments, they make you a threat. But that doesn't change the fact that they're gifts, just because they interpret those gifts as a threat. Yeah. Oh, Lavendula, yes. Listening to your past career journey and hearing the things you worked on, I'm more convinced that you're the perfect person. Oh, my heart, perfect person for the message this message you're sharing. Thank you for this. Thank you. Yeah. Like, of course I'm gonna listen to you. No, it's a privilege. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. And please check out, y'all. Ooh. The Box by Lavendula. If you're in these environments that it's, again, they're placing us into boxes or forcing us into these boxes that are not human. To try to make us into easily digestible, understandable robots so often. And so this book, The Box by Lavandula, was so healing for me to be able to read on my journey and understand, again, externalize what was happening to me. There's a reason I can't fit into this box, and it's painful because it was never created for me to thrive. So yes, please check out this book by Lavandula. Yeah. But yes, at the toxic job I was in, I was a program manager. I was an assistant vice president. Something I'm kind of, I don't know, because titles are always weird to me. So I don't typically share that, but I think it's important for this. Again, having gained all of the titles, all of the roles, that did not save me from being targeted, from not being supported, for being given multiple roles without being paid adequately for those roles, while I was leading a strategy, right, to get capital to Black-owned businesses. So you'll see how confusing this entire process was. I went through my background. I had literally the perfect credentials that you could ever think of to be in this role, which also made me a threat to people who were insecure. And so that's why it's so important that we externalize what we're experiencing. Because if I had internalized everything that happened to me, right, that's one of the reasons why I experienced major depressive disorder, why I was diagnosed with that. Because I was taking other people's feedback, criticism, while trying to work myself to the bone, which is why I share about overworking, overachieving. How do I know these things? Because this is me. I'm literally telling myself my own story as I'm healing. And it's resonating with other people because a lot of us are on the same track. Thank you, Leslie. Yes. We are all looking at the same book and seeing a different plot. These things that we were told to do in this order, we do them. Right? We shouldn't even have that pressure to do them because there is no formula to life. But we do it. We get to these places. We get these titles as I had. We get these achievements. And then all of a sudden someone is threatened. And just as quickly, right? Or actually that was not quick. That was a long journey to even get all those things that I just laid out. Just like that. Right? Now all of a sudden you're the target. And that process can be incredibly disorienting, confusing, right? Again, you think that you're the problem. You're not. You think that you're doing something wrong. You're not. You're the same person that came into this role, but your brilliance is just so bright. Other people are now intimidated by you. But that doesn't mean anything is wrong with you. Again, externalizing what you're experiencing is so important to heal. Yeah. Yes, y'all. So, yeah, in the banking field, right? Being an assistant vice president, I think I was 28. Was I 28? I think I was 28. Right? So all these milestones and achievements that we're told, you have to do this by 30. I'm going to talk about this soon in the video. The pressure to have everything done by 30 or else it doesn't count. Or else you might as well not do it at all. If you didn't do it by 30, where does this come from? This is not life. This is not life. Right? That's not human. But I had it. The title, I was on the road to buy a house, which is, oh my God, that's a whole other story. To achieve the American dream, this thing that we're sold as the key that unlocks the door of everything that we ever wanted. Happiness, unlimited happiness, right? Fulfillment. And once we get to that place, a lot of us, it's like, I'm exhausted. I'm tired. I'm experiencing increased hostility. This doesn't feel like what I was being sold this entire time. And that can be a grief process, right? Of understanding the reasons that we're being sold this is to ensure our continued participation in these systems. And that's why the messaging is so strong, right? But once we get to that place and we realize this doesn't feel good, and those of us who are highly sensitive as well, we can't stop or like push down that feeling that pops up, right? It's just there. It's just there. And so that can create a lot of emotional turmoil when you have done everything that you were supposed to do. You got to this point, and now someone perceives you as a threat, right? Now your mental health is deteriorating because you're trying to appease this person. You're trying to be 10 steps in forward of what they may ask you for. You're trying to guard yourself against their insults because you're so brilliant. Right? So that was my path. That was my path. And so how I launched my virtual assistant business. So I came across Exodus Summit 2022. Shout out to Exodus Summit, Move Abroad Money. And just realized, right, having been in, again, the banking field, having researched Black women entrepreneurs, policy issues, places of intervention, seeing the access that online business, freelancing, provides Black women with, in particular, given the unique problems, constraints that we face when it comes to entrepreneurship. Now the barriers have been eliminated that once existed. You can start freelancing with $0. These tools, right? And I'll talk more about this at the webinar. Please register. Work Anywhere, Live Everywhere, Freelancing 101 for Black women, this Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern, if you would like to register. You need basic tools to get started, right? Basic. And we're often told that we need premium. We need to, like, again, the titles, the do this big. You really need the basics to get started. And being comfortable with iteration, which is, again, a deep unlearning process for those of us who have been taught that we have to be perfect. That's the expectation in a lot of these organizations, that we have to be perfect 100% of the time. And entrepreneurship really requires you to unlearn all of that. Because now you have to be comfortable with being imperfect every single day, knowing that you don't know what you're doing, which is, again, like community can be really important in that, where other people can tell you, I don't know what I'm doing either, right? Slowly but surely, I'm putting together a strategy. I'm able to attract my clients, but that doesn't mean I have a strategy, which is something that's important too. And how can we support each other along the way by sharing resources and eliminating those barriers to access that have been there for so long, that have made entrepreneurship scary, right? A lot of fear around freelancing. And again, being in freelance communities over the past almost 2 years since I started my business, seeing other people, right, especially in Europe, take their skill sets and become freelancers like this. I'm like, hold on. Now we have so many skills as Black women, Why can't we do this? And we can. And we can. So it's often told to us, right, as freelancing is this thing that's for other people. It's for other people who are skilled. Again, if we've been in oppressive environments that have told us that we're not skilled, we won't think that's for us then. We immediately cross ourselves out. I don't have the skills. All of these roles that you've done, again, this is why I'm laying out my story. Both for me, this is helping me heal too, right? But this could be an exercise for you too. Can you walk yourself through all the things that you've done, the different roles you've had, the things that you do for people for free? If you're looking to use that as a way to enter into freelancing, right? Not saying that everything has to be paid, because it doesn't. But if you have an interest in pursuing that field, right? It could even be writing recipes for people, right? Coaching them as a dietitian. Do you help people already get their meal plans together? If they have health issues, yeah. The things that you do already are often that first path into realizing that this could be an income stream, and detaching yourself from the need to feel like you have to have a title to be relevant, to be valid, to be worthy. That's often a deeper unlearning process in when it comes to freelancing, right? Because now I don't have these things. Now I have to tell myself that I'm valid, worthy, right? Which is again like a healing exercise in and of itself, because that should always come from you. When we're dependent on other people to validate who we are, that can go up and down. Listen, somebody could like you this day, not like you the next day. And if you've tied your worth to what they think about you, now all of a sudden your worth is going to do this. It has to be tied to something permanent, fixed within you. Yeah. Yeah, y'all. So like I said, I'm a non-traditional social worker. And though the title is how I went from social worker to a freelancer, I'm still a social worker, right? Again, still have a master's degree in social work, still do mental health workshop. I still do all. They come back. I have just transitioned out of a career based on the treatment that I was experiencing, the lack of support that I had in that role. Transitioned to become, first I became a virtual assistant, which I'm winding down those services at the moment as I'm pivoting into a new area of freelancing. And being a virtual assistant is not the only path for being a freelancer. I want to say that because I didn't know that. I had no idea. That is but one path in thousands, probably millions, as many areas of skill as you have, that you can use those to start freelancing, which is really just an exchange of what you're doing for income. That's it. If you view it as at its simplest terms, you're doing something, right? You're using your skill set. In exchange for that, someone's giving you income. So yes, like I said, I launched my virtual assistant business, International Women's Day 2023. Have worked with amazing Black women entrepreneurs, especially in the YouTube community, to help them grow their audiences, create things like lead magnets, which I'll talk about more on my YouTube channel, Black Women Freelancers. Please subscribe. I'll put it up here again. Please subscribe to my new YouTube channel if you're interested in more content on understanding the different tools, what freelancing is, the deeper issues, which I'm really focused on, like the fear of being seen as Black women, right? Something that you really have to focus on, acknowledge, and work through in order to grow a business. There's no way around it. Your business has to have visibility. And yet within these organizations, how do we survive often? Shrink, right? Blend in as much as we can, because not doing so would mean harm. Would mean harm. Would mean we're being singled out, we're being targeted, all these things that we have talked about in the workplace that Black women experience. Now, as an entrepreneur, you have to go a completely different route, which can be difficult, because now you have to put your things out there. Now you have to tell people what you're doing. Now you have to explain your offer, why people should work with you. And there are different ways to make this easier, which I'm going to be sharing about, especially for those of us who are introverts. This can be like, I can't do this. You can. It may take more time, more patience, more grace with yourself. But you can do this. If this is a dream that you have, again, why is this presented as an option to everyone else, but not us? Right? And being a freelancer also is not having a brick and mortar, which is what we're shown as the only entrepreneurship option for us. That's false. That's false. I'm here with my laptop and my microphone, okay, and my mouse. This is my freelance business. I don't have inventory. All these things that we're taught that business is supposed to look like to be, again, legitimate. Got to unlearn legitimacy, because that keeps the institutional, structural barriers in place. Something I have researched as a social worker in the economic development field. I've researched these things. These barriers that we've been told. How can we now unlearn this? Right? Realize that we only need the basics to get started. Tap into our authenticity, something I talk about in my community all the time. Black women freelancers. Again, if you're interested in joining, put it up here. This is something that we really focus on, though. How do we tap into our authenticity? When we have been harmed, we have been traumatized for being our authentic selves for our whole lives. Now you're telling me I have to put my authentic self out here on social media? And social media is not the only way to advertise your business, by the way. Absolutely not. It does help to have a social media presence, because often when we see a new business, a new offering, we just Google someone, right? So that's important for that, but it's not a requirement. If you already have a network of people, something I've worked with my clients on identifying, you already help people. But we're taught that that's not legitimate. It has to look a certain type of way. No. Again, freelancing, using your skills in exchange for income at its simplest form. And to get to that point, you have to tell yourself, you have to remind yourself that you're skilled, that you do have skills, that you are highly capable, that dream that will not go away, right? I really want to pursue this. I really want to be a bookkeeper. I really want to be a dietitian. I really want to be an educator and create courses for other educators. That's freelancing. That's freelancing. And it can be that simple, not saying that the journey is simple, because it's not. I'll be the first to tell you that. It's not. Right? Which is why, again, community is so important to have around you to get you through those times where you start to question, is this the path? And another thing is, you don't have to just jump into freelancing. This can be a slow, however slow you want it. This can be an intentional process over a set period of time, however long, right? If you have a goal in mind, my goal was being able to leave the US if I wanted to. And so that was part of my strategy, again, in launching my virtual assistant business, Free Black Woman Virtual Solutions. International Women's Day 2023. Grew my client base, worked with some amazing Black women YouTubers. Glamazini, worked with Glamazini, Dr. Kamani, Rashida Dow, Sandra, Kathy Hampton. So just amazing Black women who are growing their businesses, right? Providing us with the resources that we need to get free and to be able to take my existing skill set as a social worker in the economic development field and transition that to work with Black women. That's a dream. That's a dream. And so I'm really on a mission, especially in 2025. I think it was the election results that came in. And I was like, okay, I'm done. I'm done. Because I have been hearing stories of Black women, like the treatment worsening when people felt like they could remove their filter finally. And as I've talked about on my channel before, we're already subjected to hostility, sometimes physical violence in the workplace, mental violence, spiritual harm, microaggressions. I mean, you name it, insults. And so if treatment is getting worse, what does that look like? And what are our options for pursuing other routes, right? This is really like a freedom. That's how I'm looking at it, like a freedom journey. What did I do? What was my path? And how can I now share that information with other Black women who are interested in freelancing or entrepreneurship? Because knowing that's not everyone's path, not everyone is interested in that. Absolutely. But if this is something that, I think I'm back. But you don't have to cross this option off your own list. One of the ways oppression works is to make us limit our own options. Something that we really have a calling to do, that we really have a desire, a drive to bring into the world. We're told that that's off limits and we got to cross that off our own list. Why? But other people can do it? I'm kind of over that. I'm kind of fed up with that messaging. So yes, y'all, just going through my list. Yes. So in the course of becoming a freelancer as a social worker, again, helping Black women digital entrepreneurs grow their businesses, grow their audiences on YouTube, start their Calendly pages to be able to start accepting appointments from people in their audience who already were looking for their expertise, their knowledge. Understanding things like sales funnels, right? And again, that's where my background in banking really comes into play. And realizing like all of the pieces along the way have led me to this, which is kind of like magical. Right? So how can we now learn the strategy that we have seen other people implement, using our unique gifts, skills, putting those together, to now start or grow freelance businesses. Attracting your clients, people who actually need your help. If you reframe sales like that, that has been helpful for me. If even like thinking about putting a price tag on what you do is scary, can you reframe it? Right? This is a service that you're providing to someone that is going to help them achieve something like, I don't know, the example of the recipe example. Achieve something like being able to eat at a restaurant and knowing what foods to pick so that they don't have this health issue that comes up. That's a service you're providing them with. And so in exchange for that service, you're receiving income for that. If sales, kind of putting yourself out there, marketing what you do is scary, can you reframe it in that way? That might be helpful. Like I said, along the way, having done collaborations, my first collaboration was with Marissa, MNT the artist. Art and affirmations. We did it was a really cool like event where we listened to music. Marissa painted during that, Marissa T. I read what did I do? I read a poem, I think, at the start. I did a workbook. We worked through the workbook. It was just like a small gathering for Black women to reconnect with our creativity. After being in the garden, created by Alicia Renice, that was kind of the first collaboration that I did. So along the way, over the past 2 years, having done collaborations on things like social work workshops, healing from childhood attachment wounds, which was a workshop that I needed. Right, I co-hosted, but I also needed this workshop. And here's my website if you're interested in looking at these things. Yes, Healing from Childhood Attachment Wounds, which I co-hosted with Angela Kanu, who's a fellow social worker based in Australia now. That was life-changing for me to be able to see, because again, a lot of these mental health topics, we are completely left out of the conversation. Childhood attachment wounds, even realizing the deeper things like enslavement. How did enslavement impact childhood attachment? We haven't even begun to scratch the surface of that. Bringing in my knowledge, my skill set, connecting with other Black women with areas of expertise, and really putting all the things that we have individually together, which is a power of collaboration, right? Which these systems discourage us from doing because they're that powerful. Collaboration is really that powerful. Think about all the things like doing this on your own, trying to figure this out. This can lead to burnout, right? Getting tired of it, just throwing it like, I can't do this anymore. Feeling like it's not for you when really you just don't have the support that you need. And so, yes, this is a recording. Thank you for this question. Yes, this is a recording, Healing from Childhood Attachment Wounds. If you're interested in that, again, if you experience anxious attachment style, avoidant, or disorganized, those are the 3 types of attachment styles, insecure attachment styles that are formed very early on, 0 to 3. Right before we even know what's happening in the world, we're completely relying on our caregivers for their support, for their care of us, their consistent care. If that doesn't show up consistently, there are real things that happen to our brains. And so we can be experiencing the effects of insecure attachment style 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 plus, and not even realize it. And again, the reason why these issues are so important, especially for us to understand, we have to take into context things like enslavement, colonization, How have these systems of oppression literally created the conditions that lead to insecure attachment styles that we're now grappling with, both on an individual level and on a community level? Right? So being able to collaborate on topics like that, life-changing. Because again, just because I'm a social worker, just because, again, I'll say this, just because I have the letters does not mean that I'm not also impacted by the information that I'm sharing, the workshops that I'm leading. I also need this information, right? And part of the creative process, as I have learned, right, this is also for you, the things that you create. Not, it's also for you. It is for you first, right? And then other people can resonate by you going on this authentic journey of healing yourself. But the things that flow into you, the ideas that come to you, the things that you want to pursue, those are for you. Those are for you first. So yes, on this process of being a freelancer, healing those wounds, rejecting the insults that were levied at me in this workplace, realizing that it was never me. And that has been a huge source of me reclaiming my self-confidence, right? Realizing, no, that was never the issue. Being in community with other Black women who have affirmed that to me over the past 2 years, right? You're not the issue. It's the toxic, oppressive environment and people who are the issue. And the blame rests with them. The shame rests with them, right? No shame for what you experienced at their hands. Being able to co-host the Job Liberation Virtual Summit in 2024 with full circle moment. Again, Dr. Kamani, Lifting As We Climb Consulting, her channel on YouTube. Hearing the information that I needed as well, healing from a toxic job. 2 days of Black women speakers, and I'll be announcing more about 2025 summit. Let me link it here too. If y'all have not heard about the Job Liberation Virtual Summit. This was an undertaking of love that we wish, there we go, I'm back. All the information that we wish we would have had during our experiences of healing, leaving a toxic job. 11 Black women speakers. This was in 2024, May 2024, so this year. And y'all, I'm going to have I was thinking of having a year-end recap to just tell myself again what this year has been. Because this year has been a year of dreams for me. In freelancing, in moving through the fear that I was not skilled. Again, I just laid out for you my whole resume, basically. But still having the fear that I was not skilled, that no one would want to work with me. That I wouldn't know the path to take forward. Some days I'm still like, what am I doing? I don't know. But I know that I have it within me to figure it out. That's the difference. In trusting the process, which is the cliche term, but it's really entrepreneurship, freelancing is really about trusting the journey. And not saying that this has to be fast at all, which is business coaches often tell us so often, right? If you don't do this and if you don't launch in 6 weeks, what are you doing? This process it can be intense. Again, especially as I've laid out as Black women, entrepreneurship requires a complete shedding often of the things that we have internalized about ourselves, about how we can show up in the world, about reclaiming our agency, our power, right? The fear of being seen is very real because of the consequences of being seen in these environments. Those are real. Those impacts that you experience, right? You're not making those up. You're not. And that's one of the things about the business world, having come from it. None of these topics are discussed about why it can be so difficult to even put out what you're doing so that other people can see it. Right? This is just a surface level. As human beings, we have like so many layers of reasons why. Putting yourself out there, telling people I'm now offering this service. I'm starting a new business. Especially if you don't have people around you who are supportive of those dreams, right? And seek to kill it before it even hits the light. So being around the right people is so key. It's so crucial to be able to sustain that dream, right? No matter how long it is, right? You're on your path. You're on your timetable. You're in control. Yeah, so doing workshops. I just did a workshop with Sister Afia, Community Care. If y'all were there last week, last Wednesday, on rest, reclaiming your inner peace for Black women. So that was an example of me being a social worker, using my existing skill set to host virtual workshops. And this has been a process of networking, building relationships, mutual support, all of these things that go into like the larger thing of building a business, connecting with other people. And I used to think that I hated networking. So just to say that, if you're like, I can't network, I can't freelance. I just didn't like networking with the people that I was around because I had to mask. Right? Because I had to mask. So many of us have to mask in these environments. We don't want to interact with people, of course, because that's draining. Wearing a mask all day and then having to, right, keep it plastered on, that's draining. And so it's really by tapping into your authenticity, putting yourself, I'm just going to say that that's going to sound scary to some people, putting yourself out there. But little by little over time, it's a practice of being seen. Right? And especially being in a community where people can support you through that, reflect back to you. You're making progress, even if it doesn't feel like it. Because day to day, when you don't have anyone telling you, right, thank you for doing this, as what would happen, hopefully in like a healthy work environment. You're the one that has to do that for yourself, right? And so having other people around you who are on a similar journey to be able to reflect that back to you, even if it's taking longer than you expected, even if it doesn't feel like you're achieving these milestones that someone said you had to by a certain time, your dream is still alive. And so to keep that fire kindled, community is important in that. Yeah, so public speaking, I was a speaker at Exodus Summit 2023, Move Abroad Money, having moved to Guadalajara in the midst of this entire thing that I just laid out over the past 2 years. Doing different topics on mental health, Black women's mental health in particular. Again, rest, inner peace, hosting these workshops, sharing the knowledge that I know about oppressive systems, having analyzed oppressive systems as a social worker, as a research interest, how they intersect to literally strip us of our power day after day. Now I'm tapping back into that skill set. So again, I'm still a social worker, just taking those skills for myself and becoming a freelancer, right? So using my skills in exchange for income through things like networking, building relationships, putting what I have created out there through things like digital products. I have an ebook, Healing from Childhood Trauma. If this is something that you're interested in working through, right? This guides you through the 5 steps that I lay out of how to begin that healing process, because it can feel so out there, so stressful, right? When it's really tapping back into the core essence of who you were all this time. Healing is not gaining anything new. It's coming back to who you always were. So creating digital products, again, which you can find on my website, to assist with that process of healing and coming back home to yourself. And yes, I also wrote a book and all of that. Cocoon Affirmations for Transformation. This was my way of processing what was happening to me at that environment and reminding myself of my power during this journey of transformation. And you can get Cocoon on Amazon. You can also get it on my website. The link is there on my website. If you're in the process of transforming, of shedding, of coming back home to yourself, Cocoon can really be a guide to help you do that, right? And this is a series of downloads that I experienced in this job. And again, being in the garden, led by Alicia Renice, and having other Black women creatives remind me that I had what it took to write a book, something I thought was off limits for me, something I thought was for other people. Now I have a book because of the impact of that community, which is why it's so important for things like the webinar we have coming up, my community, Black Women Freelancers, my YouTube channel, Black Women Freelancers. So again, if you're interested in freelancing at all, I invite you to come. Please come on Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern. Scrolling here on the screen and also link it again. But if this is not your path, right, if you already know that entrepreneurship is not for you, first of all, I get it. I get it. It can be a lot. Know that you have the skill set to do that thing that keeps calling to you, right? Whether it's working in a traditional work environment, pivoting career fields, as I have shared, as I did, right? Pivoting from banking to social work. Know that you have that within you, and it's there for a reason. It's there for a reason. So I'm going to read some comments, y'all. Thank you so much for sharing. Oh, did you? I didn't hear a doorbell. Maybe that was you. Thank you, Leslie. Yeah. Yeah. Shout out to Exit Summit. Yes, absolutely. Yes. The box definitely not meant for me. Yes. Hey, Danny. Yes. The box. The box that we're told to hop into. Shout out to Glamazini, Roshni Cope, saying the conveyor belt. That image changed my life, right? Just hop on a conveyor belt as soon as you turn 18. This achievement, this accomplishment, and you have to do it by this age that's laid out or else it doesn't count, which I've said again before, like the pressure to have everything by 30. It's too much. It's too much. So know that you can break out of the box. It's going to be difficult because the box wants to keep you there, right? These systems are the box, but it doesn't mean that's impossible. We've seen throughout history, and I just read We Will Rest, The Art of Escape by Tricia Hersey. Let me put it here. If you're interested in seeing examples throughout history of things that have seemed seemingly impossible, right? Like escaping enslavement, mailing yourself. Trisha shares a story about, I forgot his name, my apologies, but escaping slavery, fitting into a box, being shipped to the North, right? And that was his way of escaping the system of enslavement, a journey that should have killed him. And yet somehow, and that's why I'm saying, like, things that have happened throughout history are really our guide to be able to show us. It doesn't have to make sense on paper, because there's this force that's continuing to push us towards liberation right throughout history. And so these examples are very powerful. So I would highly recommend We Will Rest, The Art of Escape. Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. Yes. Please get the box by Lavendula, y'all, on Amazon. Yes. Yes. Thank you, Lakita. Yes, and welcome. Yes, absolutely. It's such, a mind F, but I admire your courage to pivot and change paths. Thank you for that. Yeah, it is. It really is. This is a mind game. And once I viewed it in that way, that was also healing to me too, because now I have the awareness, which can be a huge source of healing. If you're aware of how these systems are operating, of how they're trying to convince you that you're the issue, that the problem is you, now you have the power to intervene and block it. Versus you not having that awareness, right? And just living day to day, internalizing what you're experiencing, picking yourself apart, which may lead to things like anxiety, depression, right? Suicidal ideation sometimes. Now you have the awareness to put that block up, and you're protecting the core essence of who you are. Even if you still have to navigate these toxic, oppressive environments. That's the difference, is awareness. Thank you for that. Oh, Iva, thank you. Good to see you. Your resident baby boomer, just offering encouragement to you young ones today. Keep going. God's got you. Thank you for this. Thank you. That means a lot. Yes, 22 Lovejoy. Hello. Yes, I want to start doing virtual assistants, but I don't want to do customer service. I've done so much of that and I hate my job, but I feel like that's my only option. It's not. It's not. Like I said, having started as like my freelance journey, thinking that being a virtual assistant was the only option. It's not. Now I'm what's the word? Winding down my virtual assistant services with my clients at the end of this year. And I'm pivoting into coaching, workshop facilitation. Now that I know that this entire time I could have used the skill set that I already had as a social worker to literally do my skills in exchange for income. And so please also, important advice, please don't start anything that you hate doing, because then it's not going to be sustainable. You need to really like and have a passion for any freelance path that you pursue, right? Whether it be photography, writing, course creation, bookkeeping, social media marketing. Anything that you pursue, please make sure that you at least have a passion for it in order for it to be sustainable over the long term, right? Because you will get burned out so easily, ask me how I know, by doing things that you don't like doing. So thank you for this. Yeah. Oh, yay. Yes, we look forward to seeing you there. Naslin. Thank you. Yes. Okay. Oh, is this a recording? No, this is not a recording. No, I'm live. But yes, if you're interested in recordings of my workshops that I've hosted, healing from childhood attachment wounds, I do have a bunch of free workshops that I've recorded too. If you're interested in starting a LinkedIn newsletter, which has been a way working on Dr. Kamani's newsletter to grow her audience, LinkedIn is really kind of an overlooked way, but it's indexed on Google. So if you're interested in starting a newsletter, publishing it to your LinkedIn page, that way when people search you, it pops up right in the Google search. There's more of a likelihood of it popping up with the things that you do, with the topics that you're interested in. And again, building a business is also building a brand of yourself. Telling your people what you do, what your interests are, what you like to talk about, right? What services you offer. And LinkedIn can be a great way to do that. I have a link to how to build your LinkedIn newsletter on my website as well, if you're interested in that. Put my website up here. Danny says, yes, infant mental health, thank you. Yes, is real with attachment styles and us navigating the world of relationships as adults. Fellow social worker, yes. Yes. Mm-hmm. And these attachment styles can explain so many of the ways that we're interacting with each other. Because a lot of us have not had that opportunity to have a secure attachment style early on. And so if you're operating highly anxiously in relationships, workplace, right, personal relationships, if you're avoidant, right, if you avoid getting close to people because of those early relationships early on, think about how that impacts an entire community. That's real, yeah. Yes, the Job Liberation Virtual Summit. Here's the website here if you're interested in accessing the replays to the summit. We're working now behind the scenes to plan the summit in 2025. So be on the lookout for that. And this is for Black women who are still in toxic jobs or who are healing from the aftermath as well. Because we know that process, as I can attest to, the process of healing from what you experience. This is a deeply traumatic, sometimes identity altering experience being in these workplaces. And so how can we come together in one place over 2 days, which is a summit, and learn from other Black women in their areas of skill and expertise about how you can exit if you're still there, and then how you can heal from the aftermath. And this is something I co-hosted with Dr. Kamani, Lifting As We Climb Consulting last year, or this year. Yes, this year is already ended. Yes. I want to do freelancing, but I'm stuck on what to do. My background is strong in customer service, but I don't want to. Okay. I think I already read that. Yes. Oh, yeah. Digital planners. Yes. Please. Again, once you tap into that thing that you've always wanted to do, right? I really want to create this. That's your pathway. It's believing that that's enough. That's enough. Yep. To get started. Just to get started. And little by little, right? As you continue along the path, other things start to open up, collaborations, opportunities to introduce new products. So it's a journey. Entrepreneurship is really a journey. But yeah, please make those planners. Yes. Yes, thank you for this. Yes, fellow freelancer. Yes, Maya Spikes writes, freelancing can be a temporary side gig or a backup plan for those who don't want to freelance full time. 100%. Thank you for sharing this. Yeah. Yeah, you don't have to be a full time freelancer at all, right? You can do full time work, still have your full time job, do freelancing on the side. Um, it could be temporary. If you just need a reprieve from traditional work from 9 to 5, especially if you're like a caregiver, something I've been delving more into. Freelancing can provide you with that flexibility, right? And then you can go back into the traditional workforce. So none of this is like set in stone, which is how we're often told to it too, right? If you take this path, you have to continue on it. That's not true. Sometimes we take a path and then we gain more information and we go back to what we were doing. And that's fine too. That's fine too. It's like, view this as more of a long-term continuous journey versus something that you have to commit to, and really embracing the flexibility, spontaneity in life. Yes, that's important. Oh yeah, I'm listening to her book Rest is Resistance. Yes. Yeah, I have her audiobook too. Yes. Trisha Hersey of the Nap Ministry, y'all. Life-changing work, revolutionary work. Yes. Thank you, Danny. Hey, Denise. Yes. Can a dietitian start freelancing to companies to do group concierge, excuse me, classes? I'm trying to gear my business into this area. Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. So freelancing is just any way that your skills can be used to bring in income. Mm-hmm. So if you've identified a need where you've been doing, maybe even doing your traditional job, you've identified a gap in the marketplace where your skills can come into handy, right? That is freelancing. You're offering that as a service now. And in exchange for that service, you're receiving income. So this is a great idea to need. You're welcome. You're welcome. And I think part of it is giving ourselves permission. Again, shout out to Alicia Renise. But yes, we have to give ourselves permission that the idea that we have, that the gap that we've seen, that our skills fill that gap. Our skills are what are needed. Giving yourself permission to be like, I've had this idea for a minute. What's stopping me? What's the barrier? We're often taught to seek permission from authority before we get started with whatever we have within us. And it's really unlearning that and realizing that your skills, like the reason that you have that within you, your skills already are there. You have everything that you need already. You've already done a lot of the work, even if you haven't realized it. Yeah. Oh, I agree. Social workers can be absolutely wonderful coaches. Yes, absolutely. And there are quite a few of us that have pivoted into coaching, right? From traditional social work paths for various reasons. A lot of us experience in the workplace harm while we're trying to help other people. Again, I was trying to get capital to Black-owned businesses working on a strategy at a bank. So the basis of my role was assisting and being harmed in the process, which is not uncommon for Black women, especially in helping professions. Yeah. Hi, Marissa. Is there a resource for freelance writers? Freelance writers. I would encourage you to attend our webinar because it's like the full gamut of freelancing. How can you use your skills to do whatever you want as a freelancer? Specific resources. I'm trying to think if Kyoka, the Awkward Black Nomad, is a freelance writer, and Maya Spikes Writes is a freelance writer too. I don't know if they have, Maya, let me know if you're still here, free resources on how to become a freelance writer. But let us know. Yes. And Kyoka's channel is Awkward Black Nomad. I'll put it here. Thank you, Leslin. I have a friend that does that here in Manhattan. He does very well, and he gets to choose which restaurants he wants to work with. The power of information sharing, right? That idea that we have within us that's like, sometimes we downplay it to ourselves. This will never be a thing. Putting it out there, which can be so scary to do, but once you put it out there, other people are able to reflect back to you. I know someone who already does that. And then all of a sudden, that idea that you've had for so long that you thought this can never be a thing, now you have the proof that someone else is doing it in real life. And that gives you that momentum that you need to continue your own dream. So thank you. Yes. Oh, yes. I'm signed up for the webinar. I'm excited to learn how to transfer my skills into freelancing. I'm coming from a customer service, retail, and administrative background. Yes. Yes. Perfect. Yes. We look forward to seeing you there. Yes. All right, y'all. You're welcome. You're very welcome. As we're winding down, sharing my authentic, thorough, that was probably the most thorough story about my background, but I hope that it was helpful. Even if you're interested in like social work in general, pursuing a master's degree in social work, realizing that there are different areas within the field. Like I said, I'm still a social worker. I'm creating webinars, coaching, workshops, virtual summits, using those skills that I had as a social worker to pivot in a different direction. And so you can do it too, right? If the dream is within you, know that you can do it. It's there for a reason. It's not there by coincidence. It might just take getting into community with other people who are doing similar things, because this is still a very niche area, in an area that has been off limits to us for a long time. So this is new. But know that you can do it. Maya says, yes, I don't have free resources on how to become a freelance writer yet. I'm happy to share advice with anyone here. Thank you, Maya, for that offer. Thank you. Thank you. I will also look for some and reach out. Oh, yes. Yes, y'all. So just like in the chat, and thank you again for sharing your experiences, questions, stories. As we learn more about freelancing, I'm still on a journey of learning the different paths of freelancing. Again, pivoting out of being a virtual assistant into my social work background, of facilitating workshops, of being a public speaker, of being a coach, right? Connecting with other Black women to host workshops on mental health topics, virtual summits to help us heal from toxic work environments. All of these are still my social work skill set, just in a different way. I don't have the title, so some things you do have to release. The title, right? The prestige, all of these things that really didn't feel great once I got them. So that's important to say too. But yes, y'all, please attend our webinar. I'll be co-hosting with Quinn Edwards, who is a web designer, course creator, former teacher, and Black woman freelancer. This is Thursday, December 19th, 7 p.m. Eastern, work anywhere, live everywhere, freelancing 101 for Black women. Even if you have an interest, tiny interest in freelancing, you think it's not for you, you think you don't have the skills, you do. I guarantee you do. But even if you have that like little interest, I would encourage you to attend on Thursday. All right, y'all, the link is in the description section to register. And I'll be live with Quinn tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern to talk about location freedom as a freelancer, Black woman freelancer. All right, y'all. Oh, thank you, Danny. Oh, because this is different for me, so I appreciate this. Love your story sharing. Thank you, dear Marissa. Have a great rest of your day, week. Oh, thank you for this feedback. Thank you. Yay. We look forward to seeing you there. And yes, y'all, hope y'all have a beautiful rest of your Monday. And until tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern, where I'll be live with Quinn, I'll see you then. Bye, y'all. Thank you.